OM Jesus, boys, girls, in-betweeners, my name is Rick Gambit, and I'm here to talk to you for hours at a time about video games. And no, that's bullshit, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm here, it's really early, I'm super tired as always, but it's okay because I brought the ultimate stimulant with me. His name is Nairman. How are you doing today?
Okay, I guess.
It's a fight to sound more bored than the other person.
Pretty much.
But we're not bored at all, because we're here bringing you news and things that are going on. It hasn't been a weekly thing lately because reasons have been going on, stuff in life, crap like that. I had to buy a car because my car blew up. It didn't actually blow up, it just died. So I've been running around doing stuff like that. There's been Street Fighter betas, there's been things going on, so that's my excuse. But that's fine because we're back here now and we have things to talk about. Speaking of Street Fighter, let's jump right into it. So probably what I would say is the biggest, like, quote-unquote news of the last couple of weeks that's come out is actually from Street Fighter V, because the beta came out last week, came out on PC for the first time, and you know what happens when things come out on PC? They get data mined.
Yeah, everything gets data mined nowadays because there are ways to do it.
That's true. I mean, they data mined the crap out of Smash, and that's not on PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they data mined the Street Fighter V beta, and surprise, surprise, they found some files in there which would be hinting very freaking heavily at what the DLC characters are going to be for the game. So basically, they found files for, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters.
Quite a few.
Quite a few, yeah. Which are not in the game at the moment. Now, we've got room for we got two of those. Well, I'll go through the list. So we got the character files that they named, and these aren't actual character names; they're abbreviations, but they would seem to hint towards particular characters, and that's supported by the fact that separate people went through and data mined it. It wasn't just one person, and they found that these file names had a lot of polygons associated with them, and they had a lot of joints and skeletons rigged to them. So it would basically it would hint that these are definitely characters and not background assets or anything like that. So we got Alex, Boxer, Dalsim, Fan, which is a new character, Guile, Ibuki, Jury, who's my girl. We got Unknown, which is just NDK, and we got one which points to Urian. So what's interesting about this is that, as I said, so these are 9 files. Now there were 2 slots left. At the time this was broken apart, there was 2 slots left in the current roster. One of those slots has been filled, which was in fact Dalsim, so that's already confirmed one of the characters is on this list. Also, a fun fact is that I tweeted, I think 2 months ago, that the only way that Capcom could make the launch for this game any more boring was to have Dalsim as the final character, and they totally fucking did it. Because I don't know what Capcom's hang up is on, like, the classic on the World Warrior 8 characters from Street Fighter 2, but they just felt the need to really cram those guys into this game. The only ones that are missing are Guile and Honda at this stage.
Yeah, and Guile's part of that leak, so.
Yeah, exactly. So this is 9 characters. There are 6 characters that have been announced post-launch since then, and there was 2 that was left to be announced. So that's 8. So we're kind of looking on par, just about, with the list here. So that's kind of the first thing about that. So before we go any further on that, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is really Capcom bringing it on themselves? Do you think that Capcom, if they don't want this shit to be data mined, they should find more obscure ways to name their character files and things like that, like Character 1, Character 2, Character 3? I don't know how game development works. What are your thoughts?
That's pretty much my attitude of, if you didn't want people to find it, you shouldn't have put it in the updates in any way, so. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Smash, where it's like, they were upset that Roy and Ryu weren't a surprise for their E3 thing. It's like, well, then don't put their names in the update files.
Yeah, I mean, look, we aren't obviously game developers, so we don't know how this all works, but yeah, it would seem to be common sense that if you want to remain unknown, then just give them generic file names, you would think. So, but who knows? Maybe it's just too damn confusing for, like, all the different developers to be able to do that, to be able to stay on that track without having the actual file names there. I don't know.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's just one of those things where I'm just kind of like, okay, there has to be a better way to do this at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. So, that's kind of that for that. So there's been a lot of theories that have been sprouting up since then. So the possibility of Fan is possibly going to be the boss character. There's a lot of people speculating that because apparently that character has a lot of joints in the skeleton, like way more than a character should actually need to. So people are already thinking like tentacles and things like that, maybe, or some little smoke wisps. I don't know. So that's kind of the fan theory there, and that would kind of slot in with like the idea that we haven't actually seen the boss character for this game yet. So that would kind of make sense. NDK is possibly Nadeshiko, who is Amika's tag wrestling partner, so that's the theory for that. But everything else, that's kind of where things lie at the moment. We won't know anything obviously concrete for a while, so it's just a waiting game at this stage. But so far, this is also lining up pretty well with the leak that came out quite a few months ago as well from the that we saw that gave us things like lore and things like that. So all in all, it looks like that, if this isn't the exact list of characters, it's still looking like it's going to be very close to what we can expect coming out over the next year for this game.
Well, most definitely. It's just one of those, yeah, most of these characters aren't a surprise, so I guess we're just kind of getting the people we all expected out of the way.
Well, that hasn't stopped them from teasing them, basically. They did release like a picture of like a whole bunch of silhouettes, and the silhouettes are ambiguous enough that you really can't tell who the fuck they're supposed to be, which is something that, again, it's very interesting that this game takes so many cues from Killer Instinct on the Xbox, which is hilarious because Killer Instinct was originally a Street Fighter clone. It's all coming full circle, and that was like when Killer Instinct came out and they had their originally Killer Instinct only launched with about 8 characters, I think, or possibly slightly less than that, and they just drip-fed characters over the next few months / 12 months / whatever. And so every few months a new character would come out, and that's what Capcom are doing now. They're doing the same thing. It's going to be 6 characters over 12 months coming in 2016. So it's just kind of interesting that as I said, these things all come full circle.
It's just a means to try and keep people interested in the game rather than doing one big DLC patch for one day in the year.
But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I don't think that's actually a bad idea. I think that it's better because basically what they're saying now is that we're going to have this drip feed of characters throughout the year, which, as you said, will help keep up interest. And also the fact that, with this drip feed of characters, if they need to make balance adjustments, they can now do it on the fly instead of waiting until the big next character update to do a big to rebalance all the characters at once.
Yeah, definitely. It's just one of those. Doing it more often gives them more opportunity to tweak things, to update things, and just, again, keep people interested in the game. I like that approach rather than big DLC dumps that are, like 5 characters at once, so it's all kind of a mess at once.
Pretty much, yeah. It's it's nice to get a whole bunch of characters at once, but not when you have to wait 2 years between each update, which is kind of what we did for Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now I did play the beta on. I did play a little bit on PS4 because I did actually get invited to the beta for free, which was very nice. But I only have a pad for PS4. I'm terrible on pad, so I kind of. Aside from the fact that I had a lot of trouble with my router trying to get that to actually find matches, I had to spend half the time in the beta for that, just reconfiguring and playing with my router to try and get that to actually behave itself. When it finally did come out for PC 2 days before it was supposed to close, and I just got in a crap load of time on PC. A lot of fun, worked really well, but the client actually crashed every 15 minutes. It was the weirdest thing. It would actually, you could almost sit your watch by it, that every 15 minutes, not exaggeration, would just go dead. And I was just recording around that, basically.
Yeah, you can do what you gotta do. It just seems like they're still pretty buggy, all things considered.
Yeah, I'm not giving Capcom any flack for it, because it is a beta, obviously, and you can't expect a beta to work perfectly. That's just unreasonable. So, obviously, it's a very big problem to have, but as long as they get it fixed by launch, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but aside from that, I suppose it's just nice that aside from that, the actual net play of the PC version actually worked very well, which is nice, considering that in a lot of previous versions of Capcom games, the PC version has been quite inferior to the console versions in terms of net play and lag and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least it's working that way, so I guess you'll be playing the PC version mostly then?
No, I'll probably just buy a stick for the PS4 because the consoles always tend to have the larger pool of players than the PC version does, but I'll have it on PS4 and PC anyway, so I'll play it on both.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. We'll move on to the next topic, which is Nintendo announced a new mobile device app thing / going on. I have no idea. We're going to talk about Today about this. It's called Miitomo. What the crap is it?
It has something to do with Mii's. That's all we know.
So this is obviously Nintendo doing more of their foray into the world of mobile gaming and whatnot. So what is it? Do we know that it's a social app? Do we know that it's going to be a gaming app? Do we know it's going to be both? What do we know, aside from the fact that it's just going to have Mii's in it?
It's probably going to be a mix of game and social stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it connected somehow to your Nintendo Network account ID to try and like get your Mii and stuff in there. But it's kind of just vague at this point. They just kind of announced that, yes, we're making it, yes, it's coming next year. Just wait and see sort of thing.
Yeah. I find it kind of interesting that Nintendo is still really pushing the Mii's, because I mean, I don't know, what are your thoughts on this? I've been one of those people who always thought that Mii's look kind of like weird and creepy since they came out. I've never really been a big fan of them. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they work fine as a user avatar system, and as far as like the Wii Sports goes, just using them, that's fine, but I don't like using them as kind of like ideas for their own games. They're just kind of too basic design-wise, and just they're really not even characters, so kind of what's the point for me? It's like, you can it's just like, you can play with your actual friends. It's like, not really the same thing, guys.
It's a little bit of a stripped-down version of my old friend there.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I guess the only thing is like, so is this something that we should really just dismiss and not really look at? Because I mean, obviously that's been a mistake that a lot of people made with Nintendo in the past, especially, the biggest example of that being the Wii. So, is this something that we should really be paying attention to, that may be some kind of potential deal changer, or do you think that's going to be just kind of a side project that just may or may not fade off?
It's hard to say, considering this is Nintendo's first real foray into mobile markets, so not really sure, but it's one of those, it doesn't seem like it's big enough to warrant that much attention. If it's your thing, it's your thing, but I don't think Nintendo's putting too much stock or effort into it in regards to just development time.
It's the Apple TV of Nintendo, is what you're saying?
Possibly.
Fair enough. Alright, well, let's move on from there. Let's talk about Sonic. You gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast.
Fast. Alright, so, God, that means we're running to the ground. So, apparently, this is news to me that you told me earlier, that Sega actually give a crap about Sonic again, or Sonic, or whatever you want to call the little blue spiky thing. So, what's the deal going on there?
Basically, they came out and said that they recognize that the last number of Sonic games have been pretty subpar, and that they will actually try now and bring it back to its roots, even though they've done that plenty of times in the past to varying levels of success. But
you've said that so many times, the words have lost all meaning.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's just one of those. It's rare to see a development studio actually admit that what they've been doing hasn't been working or wasn't very good. So that's kind of interesting, and the sad part is that's happened to Sonic more than once. So,
well, I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but I believe the general consensus is that there hasn't been a good Sonic game since either Sonic Generations or Sonic Colors. I think are the two that kind of get held up as the recent examples.
Sonic Generations came out a year after Colors, so it's Generations in terms of most recent Sonic games.
Yeah, so you'd agree with that?
More or less. Lost World wasn't terrible, but it wasn't all that good either. And then the less said about the Sonic Boom games, the better.
Those redesigns, I mean, once again, not a big Sonic fan, but even I look at those redesigns, I'm just like, they're either not doing enough, like with Sonic, it's like, oh, we gave Sonic a scarf, or like, they're doing way too much, it's like, we made Knuckles a retard.
And made him Buffles, as the fandom likes to call him.
Those muscles are useless without a spine, damn it.
He has such skinny legs.
That's right, how can he hold himself up? He skipped leg day. You never skip leg day.
Buffles always skips leg day.
So, alright, so given that you are obviously much more of a Sonic fan out of the two of us, what do you think that Sega has to do in order to get this series back on track? Because there's been so many spin-off games and so many deviations from the original formula. We've seen, obviously, Shadow the Hedgehog and crap knows what else. Sonic and the Black Knight, and all these terrible games where they've tried to tweak the formula and it's all gone horribly wrong. What do they need to do to get it right?
Hard to say, because they've done a few things that have been right in terms of the formula. It's just one of those, they need to find something that works and just kind of stick with it for a while, rather than just, okay, it worked for one or two games, time to change the formula up. It's like, no, you have to kind of refine it and figure out what you want Sonic to be in terms of gameplay, instead of just kind of forcing something new on it just for the sake of trying to stay fresh. Because, I mean, look at Mario. It's been pretty samey for the last number of years, but usually there's always a game or two out there that kind of shakes things up for Mario, but they kind of know what they want Mario to be, and they use other franchises to do other things. That's what kind of Sega needs to do. Yeah,
okay. So no real thoughts on that? Just find a good new gimmick and just try and milk the crap out of that?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's wrong with like the old stuff? I mean, see, look at yeah, you're talking about Mario, but let's look at some other platforms like say like Donkey Kong and whatnot. I mean, Donkey Kong. I mean, especially like the new games. I haven't played them, but I've heard really great things about Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and things like that. Where this is like they're doing the same thing, which is essentially they're doing the same thing they were doing back in the N64 days, where they haven't really changed the formula all that much, but they just really refined it and perfected it. And something which is just reeks of just really high quality.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what they tried to do with Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2, but they kind of screwed the physics completely on that, so I wouldn't mind seeing another kind of downloadable or high-quality 2D game just to try and say, okay, we're really going to try and focus on what made Sonic great in the first place, but I think they need to do a little bit more on the 3D space, because I don't think Sonic's really hit that home run yet in the 3D space. He's gotten close a few times, but not completely there yet.
Yeah. So does this mean, do you think they're going to just completely ditch the whole Sonic Boom kind of makeover and go back to the more classic Sonic that we know, or do you think that they're going to try and just double down on that and try and use that with a new formula?
The Sonic Boom thing has always been its own side kind of project. It's never going to, they said it was never going to replace the main series. It was more of a way to give the main series a break while they worked on it. Okay. So the next game we're all assuming will be more of a classic style game.
Fair enough. All right, cool. Let's move on to just some quick rapid fire topics, which we got a few of them, so it'll take a little while to work through them. But first and foremost, we got just some interesting news. Mirror's Edge 2 has been delayed until, or Mirror's Edge Catalyst now has been delayed until May next year, which is. I mean, when I first saw that, obviously I was kind of a little bit bummed because I am really looking forward to that game. On the other hand, my first thought was like, well, I've been waiting since 2008 for a sequel to Mirror's Edge, so what's a few more months?
Yeah, as long as it's used to polish the game up and actually make it good, I really don't mind.
They're adding microtransactions. It's EA. Would that surprise you at this point?
No, which is why I hope it's just a good platformer game.
Well, actually, I mean, the interesting thing about that is that this is I don't pay that much attention to what's going on, sort of behind the curtain in the industry. But apparently, Mirror's Edge 2 is kind of the result of a new CEO taking over at EA a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and that he basically pushed forward this new idea of players first. We want to try and get rid of, because EA obviously had the dubious distinction of being a company that was ranked the worst company to work in for in America for like at least 2 years in a row. I don't know how many times they've won it individually. But, so he came in and kind of really wanted to shake that stigma of this being, the evil empire kind of thing, and has been pushing this whole idea of this mantra of players first. And, I don't know, I mean, it's interesting that since he came in on board, we have seen, the return of something like Mirror's Edge, which people have been clamming up for years and years. And, we've seen, to a degree, we've seen, like, the sports games of, Madden 19, and Madden 20, or whatever the fuck they're up to, and EA Hockey, and all these sports games that have these yearly iterations. They haven't disappeared, but they've been scaled back a bit and whatnot. And what I'm saying is that like it seems to be moving in a little bit of a different direction. Do you think that is the case, or do you think that I'm just hallucinating here?
It's a couple steps in the right direction. Obviously, Battlefront still has all that DLC kind of nonsense going on, so there's still plenty to kind of worry about with EA, but they're moving in the right direction, which is better than what they were doing before. So I don't want to give them, it's hopeful that they'll get better now. It's just, okay, that's nice for now, keep going.
Yeah. I mean, talking about DLC very briefly, I know we harp on this a lot, and I will touch on this slightly later as well. But just kind of my thoughts on DLC for people who aren't aware is that, like, we do bash DLC a lot on this show. But personally, I mean, I accept that DLC is something that it's the nature of the beast. We have to have it these days because development for AAA gaming is, like, the cost of developing a AAA game is so stupidly high. We're talking, hundreds of millions of dollars territory kind of thing here, that developers need a way to recoup that kind of cost. And it just depends on the way that you implement the DLC. You know, if you're gonna have cosmetic things and things like that, I don't mind paying costumes. That's fine. I'm down for that. It's when obviously it's the way that you implement it, whether we're getting content that we should have gotten at launch and things like that tend to raise our ire around here.
That or it's overpriced, which can vary a bit from person to person, but usually there's a pretty clear line on what should be priced what.
Yeah, very true, very true. But as I said, we'll touch on that again a little bit later because I have one thing I want to discuss about that. But moving on from there, so there's new characters for the Pokken roster, for the 3D Pokemon Fighter.
Yep, we have a new boss character, Dark Mewtwo.
Wasn't Mewtwo dark enough already? Did we have to get like the fucking Owl the Edge version?
Nope, we need an Owl the Edge version now. Instead of his, he's basically very black. He has like horns coming out of his shoulders and tail now. So it's like, what?
Does he have a mustache that he twirls?
Nope, but not quite. But it's getting there. He's actually doing the. You've seen the cover of the Shadow the Hedgehog game, right?
Yeah, I have.
He's doing that pose.
Oh my god, are they serious? Is this like when Capcom released Fat Mega Man for Street Fighter Cross Tekken? Are they just deliberately taking the piss at this point?
I have no idea. It's just one of those. Everyone's kind of like, "But."
It's like releasing an evil Darth Vader version. It's like, wait a minute, wasn't he fucking evil in the first place?
Yeah, it's just one of those. Mewtwo would have been fine as the final boss on his own.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's good to know. So speaking of Payday, I've given away the next topic. Speaking of microtransactions, Payday, we talked about this in the last episode. The Payday, the heist, they made a very huge misstep by basically saying that they're going to not only introduce DLC into their game, or microtransactions into their game, but it was pay to win. It was pay to get guns and skins that actually gave you stat bonuses for those weapons, which would give you an edge over your competitors. That was a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago. They've come out since and said that they needed to introduce that DLC to basically prevent layoffs from occurring at the company. You're not buying it, man, both in physical terms and in non-literal terms.
Yeah, excuses at this point. You can add microtransactions if you really need to try and save jobs, but making it basically pay to win is just saying screw it at this point. That just means you don't know what to do, you don't know how to make the game good. Something's wrong in the development side of things. That's just what it says to me.
Yeah, well, it does kind of wrinkle a little bit of desperation, which may lend credence to their claims. But I mean, you don't put in DLC that is pay to win unless you're really desperate to get money. If you're like really hoping that people will just throw money at this shit, you know, because like one person will buy it and everyone else will be like, oh my god, but now we have to be as good as this guy, so we have to buy it as well. Yeah,
that's just one of those. It's a bad decision no matter what you do. So I don't know why they went for it.
Well, as I said, I mean, yeah, as we just mentioned, it's there's the right way to introduce DLC and the wrong way. If you want to just introduce weapon skins that just make your weapon more bling or more pretty or whatever, if it has a pony on the side of it, I don't give a shit. If it's cosmetic, that's fine, because that doesn't affect the way the game plays. But I mean, this, not only affects the way the game plays, but there's no way they could have introduced this and not known that it wouldn't raise the ire of basically everyone who owned it.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's just one of those, what were they thinking this entire time?
Yeah, pretty much. So that's their excuse. Who knows whether it's actually true or not, but there's definitely better ways that they could have done it. So let's not hop on that any further. Let's just talk about what games we're kind of playing right now. It's coming up to Christmas. There's more releases coming out. Have you been playing anything new?
Nothing new. It's mostly just been Mario Maker on my end.
I actually, I bought, the last time I played that, actually, Dre was around here, and we were just playing that for shits and giggles because we're doing the 100 Mario mode, and we couldn't even get through it because we're both terrible platformers, but essentially from what I've heard is that game has just turned into like a hellish nightmare where everyone is trying to one-up each other and just trying to make the most balls difficult Mario level possible.
Yeah, pretty much, that's what it's turned into.
Oh my god, I'm not going to pick up that game ever again.
The thing is, Nintendo had to have known this was coming.
Can't they do kind of can we not find a way to rank levels on difficulty and just put them and break them into different areas for different people to play? Why do I have to just jump into this pool, this miasma of just hatred for me and have to try and pick levels out of that?
We're getting checkpoints.
It seems like kind of a funny decision though, don't you think? Because Nintendo are always about like, games should be fun, they shouldn't be competitive, and you have this scenario now in Mario Maker where people are just trying to make ridiculously difficult levels that have no business being in any kind of game whatsoever unless it's like the most sadistic, hurtful game you can possibly think of, like, Super Meat Boy times 100, and they're just letting people do it. They're making no effort to try and, categorize content or anything like that. They're just like, yeah, okay, well, that's kind of the way it's turned out.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm sure it continues on. They will probably have you flag it for difficulty in some level. So
that would really be nice for people like me who just are terrible at fucking platform games and just want to play a game which is just want to play a level which is challenging for my skill level, not challenging for God's skill level.
Yeah. They probably will eventually. It's just one of those. They probably have to wait for it to kind of break first, because it's basically rapidly turning into Kaizo Mario World.
Great. So that's that. I had the week off actually, so I bought a couple of new games to play over the course of my week. First one I bought was Halo 5, which I was really on the fence about buying Halo 5 because I used to be a very big fan of the Halo series before I got into playing Street Fighter. I went to the Halo launch at midnight for Halo 3. I bought the Legendary Edition for $200 dues. I have the big Master Chief helmet sitting on my shelf right now. I'm looking at it. It's glorious. I was a big fan. Halo 4 turned me off a lot from the series because it felt like they were just really kind of grasping at straws to try and continue the story for it. But I threw down the money for Halo 5 because I managed to get it quite cheaply for Australian money at least. And I actually really enjoyed it. I felt that like it was kind of getting the series back on track a little bit. It was expanding the story into like a more grand kind of story where Halo 4 had a very like centralized kind of story that was very limited to the game itself, things like that. So, what are your thoughts on Halo games? Are you interested at all? Is this just like water off ducks back to you?
I've enjoyed Halo because I've played it with friends when Halo 1 and 2 were new back in the day. So, I do want the series to do well because I do enjoy it, but. Yeah, I heard 4 wasn't so good, and I've heard pretty good things about 5, especially the multiplayer, so... if I ever hang out with my friends who have an Xbox One, I'll probably pop in the game and see what all the hubbub is about.
Yeah, cool. Oh god, I had an idea, I completely lost it. The multiplayer is actually... I've been playing that as well, and I'll jump right into the multiplayer just very quickly, is that it's actually really good. It was running perfectly on pretty much on day one, which is also really good as well. So I mean, I'm terrible at it. My time to death ratio versus kills was just fuck awful. I mean, I would literally respawn, run about 5 steps, and get shot in the back of the head. So that's how I play Halo.
It's spawn campers.
That's right. Goddamn dirty campers. I'm still getting the hang of it. Dre used to be a very big Halo fan before he got into playing Dark Souls, but he's been quite pleased with Halo 5 as well. So that's been really good. All in all, it seems to be a return to form for the series is our thoughts. Now, the idea that I had, which I just remembered now, which I wanted to talk to you about, is that I played the campaign through. It was reasonably challenging. It took me about 8 hours. I'd heard varying reports from anything from 4 to 7 hours for the campaign. I think if you can do it in 4, then you're obviously some kind of like gaming robot that's been sent back from the future to be able to do that. But 8 hours for the campaign, a lot of people were saying to me like, oh, that's too short, that's not enough for the campaign. I played it and I felt like it was a decent length for the kind of story it was trying to tell. How long do you think a campaign should be in this kind of game?
Maybe a tad longer. I would expect maybe 8 to 10 hours. Just to say you can get a full value price from it. To some extent. Obviously, these games are more multiplayer focused now more than ever. But it kind of needs that single player element, and I would say around 8 to 10 hours. So maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit more cohesive of an experience by itself. But 8 hours isn't too bad. 7 to 8 isn't too bad.
It felt reasonable to me. I asked some of my followers on Twitter what they thought, and I had one person come back because I asked like how long that was compared to other Halo campaigns, because it felt kind of right compared to other campaigns. I had one person come back and said they'd been speaking to a very big fanboy, and apparently Halo 2 was 12 hours, and every other campaign has been around 8 in that series. So that would kind of be par for the course if that is the case.
Yeah, I recall 2 being around 10 to 12 hours.
And is that like the high watermark for the series for you?
Yeah, 2 is.
Yeah, okay. Which is interesting, because 2 for me 2 ended so abruptly and so weirdly. I honest to God thought that my disc had somehow skipped a level. I actually like stopped and reloaded the game and played through it again because I'm just like, no, that can't be the fucking end.
Well, at that point they were already planning 3, so I kind of expected that. But I more mean just in terms of gameplay and multiplayer. But it worked well for me, so yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Now going back to DLC just very briefly on this. The interesting thing about the multiplayer in this is that the multiplayer works fine. Multiplayer works great from what I've played so far. So that's not the issue. The issue is that if you want to like pimp your armor and whatnot, if you want to get like that prestige kind of stuff going on with like your swag helmet and like the cool armor that you want, because there is a shit ton of modifications you can make to your armor and your helmets and everything else, which is great. But in previous Halo games that I've played, like Halo 4 and Halo Reach and things like that with the multiplayer, you had to basically level up, and as you leveled up, you'd unlock tiers of gear, and you could then purchase items from that tier of gear, which is fine. Halo 5, not the case. Halo 5 just says, we're doing away with that entire system. You can just play this game now. It's kind of like Hearthstone, actually, in a little way, and a few other multiplayer games that are free to play, I should add as well, in that now you get packs. You can buy different tiers of cards in packs, and those cards will then unlock the corresponding items. So you can buy bronze, silver, gold, or Battlezone pack. Now, bronze, silver, and gold you can actually pay for with in-game currency that you basically earn from playing missions and whatnot, which is great. The Battlezone pack, which costs Australian money, costs $30 fucking Australian money, $30 dues. Is not available through in-game currency. You have to buy that straight up. And I actually threw down $30 to buy one of those packs just to see what was in it, and I got crap out. I did not get any fucking armor out of it, which is the only thing that I wanted anyway, so I was actually bitterly disappointed in that. What are your thoughts on that? Because in one way that kind of levels the playing field a little bit for people who are casual gamers, because they're never going to get up to like the higher echelons of ranks to be able to get the really cool stuff. On the other hand, microtransactions.
Well, first off, is it true that all of Australians are trying to call their money dollary dues now?
I was calling them dollar dues before that whole poll survey, whatever thing came out.
I vote yes for dollary dues.
I'd have called them Chazwazzers.
Okay, but back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
I don't mind it as long as you can indeed buy it with in-game currency. There's nothing stopping someone from just say, okay, I'll spend money to get it now. It's just shortening the grind. Yeah. Really. So I don't mind it too much, as long as there's a way to get it in-game. As long as you're dedicated enough, you can indeed just get it yourself.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point to discuss, because when Street Fighter V comes out, and those new characters do come out as well, we've mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating because it does tie in with this, is that those characters will be available either for real money, or you can grind out the in-game currency to buy them through the game by completing. They're gonna actually have like daily quests that you have to throw X amount of fireballs in a match or things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, that's this may be becoming something that's more common in big release titles.
Yeah, again, as long as there's a way to do it in-game, I really don't mind that much, because if you can do it in-game, that'll keep the price within reasonable check. Because if it becomes too outlandish in price, people will just play the game, no matter how long the grind is. So that keeps the price in check, and it also just cuts out the grind for those who just want the player character or armor or whatever it is now.
Yeah. I suppose the only difference there is that one is like you know what character you're paying for, and the other instance is like you're just buying random packs and just hoping for the best.
Yeah, that kind of irks me a little bit, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal as long as they have some sort of algorithm to where you'll probably always get at least one new thing every now and again.
Yeah, cool, fair enough. And lastly, I bought Assassin's Creed Syndicate as well, which is like, I've never been a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series. Once again, Dre's trying to get me into it at various points. I played Assassin's Creed 2 all the way through. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was just really bored at the time and had nothing else to play.
Yeah, really, 2's the best one.
That's the best. That's what everyone tells me. That's why I played it. But I bought Syndicate. I'm actually really enjoying Syndicate, which is actually interesting for me for a couple of reasons. I think because it's not set during like the Renaissance. It's set during the Industrial Revolution, which is kind of more fun for me because like you can kind of work in those steampunk elements into it that way. That's one way, and one thing. And the other reason is that because this is the first mainline I stress the point mainline because there has been a spin-off game. There's one spin-off game, Liberation I think it was, where you can actually play a female assassin, and as everyone, long-time fans of the show know, on my channel know, like playing my girls. So, those two things, those two little tweaks have actually made this game much more interesting to me.
Fair enough. I mean, the gameplay really hasn't changed all that much, so if the setting and the characters do it more for you this particular instance, I guess that's just your taste, so, you know, more power to you. It's just one of those, it's the same game, it's essentially the same gameplay to me, so I have no interest.
I suppose the interesting thing about it was, and I don't know whether this is actually a direct response to Unity, because we obviously know that because the Assassin's Creed games come out once a year, they're actually being developed by rotating teams. That, you know, Unity, it's just coincidental more than anything else that Unity comes out and it's like, oh, you can play as a female character or a male character throughout the story. It forces you to switch at certain points, which is a little bit of a bummer, but you can also switch, you can also do all the side quests as whatever character that you kind of want. Then it comes out a year after Assassin's Creed Unity, which was a game which received a lot of criticism for the fact that it's like, oh, you can play multiplayer, but it's all bros.
Dude, bros, yay.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed.
Final Fantasy 15, a go-go.
So, yeah, I mean, make of that what you will. I don't know whether it was, you know, they actually added Evie in as a response to that, or whether they had it planned in the beginning, or whether she's going to originally have a much smaller role or anything else. We'll never know. But it's just, you know, if nothing else, it is very coincidental that comes out a year after, you know, like I said, they received a lot of blowback on that particular point.
Oh, definitely. It's, you know, it's one of those, I'm sure that they were planning it to some degree. It's just they made it a bigger selling point after what happened in Unity.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Mr. Nairman, if people want to hear more of you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at NairmanBSC, or you can find me on my YouTube channel, Brain Scratch Comms. Indeed,
and you can find me in all social media places and Twitch places and whatnot below in the description. You can see them right there. Go head over there, check that stuff out. And in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you guys very soon.